Hello, this is David D. Hilster, and this is Dissident Science. Ten misconceptions about dissidents. Now, these are the things people outside of the mainstream get in their comment areas or as responses from people who are supporters of mainstream science. You're going to hear this all the time, and a lot of times it's very frustrating. We don't know what to say. A lot of times our reaction is just go at them and just be emotional and say, you guys are stupid, and you just get in this name-calling war. No, we don't have to, because we can have real answers, and that's what I'm going to tell you. That's why I'm your science therapist, and that's why you are subscribed to this. And if you're not subscribed to this channel, you should be. Go down below and click on the subscribe button, the little bell next to you. You'll be alerted to when our next video drops. So let's go through this, my subscribers. Let's go through these one at a time, all 10. Disconception? That's a good one. Dissident misconception number 1. Dissidents don't understand mainstream science. Well, that is so far from the truth. In fact, here are the reasons why, right here. That's why I have them listed out for you. Many dissidents have spent years and even decades going over mainstream theory. Absolutely true. Dissidents actually know more about mainstream science. That's how they found the problems. We don't just, I think people go in and we just think, oh, it's all wrong. We don't look at it. We have no idea how it works. And then so we're going to come up with our own ideas. That's what they think in their head. I think it's going to be, it's shocking to them to think that we actually know more about the theories, and that's why we found the problems. If they would have taken the time the way we have, they would have found them. But why can't they take the time? Well, that's what number 3, or bullet number 3 is. And it says dissidents are more unbiased than the mainstream. They don't have to keep their jobs or reputations. We don't. I don't have to. I don't have to worry about keeping my job if I say something outrageous and have a completely new model of the universe, and I say to people who believe in relativity or believe that Big Bang is correct, or particle physics, or the neutrino exists, or relativity is correct, or quantum mechanics is a great theory, and I come and I say, no, it's not. Well, the reason is I can even entertain the question is because I'm unbiased. I'm detached from it. I have no emotional attachment to the Big Bang. I didn't spend all my life working on it and writing PhDs and getting other people to make PhDs, get their PhDs as well. And so I have no emotional attachment to it. So that, folks, we know it better than you. We're unbiased, and that's why we can find the problems with it. And they are real problems. Misconception number 2 for dissidents. Dissidents are not trained or educated in physics or cosmology. Not true. Not all of us. A lot of us are self-educated. I've been studying this for over 20 years. I know quite a lot about it, but I don't have a degree in it. My degree is in mathematics, architecture, and linguistics. I'm in computers. Oh, but then, of course, Einstein was not a physicist when he was first starting his theory, and we don't seem to be bothered by that. But anyways, the response to this is some dissidents are in fact quite qualified for what they are criticizing. For instance, Dr. Cynthia Whitney. She is our chief scientist of the CNPS, and she has a PhD in physics from MIT, specializing in special relativity. And she is in my movie, Einstein Wrong, The Miracle Year. Go to EinsteinWrong.com. You can watch it. And she says that it's Einstein's turn, and we have to look at every major theory and look at it over. And if there are problems with it, we have to admit it and either throw it out or fix it. One of the two. Dr. Ron Hatch, for instance, he is an expert in GPS. Why? Because he has over 30 patents. His company from GPS was bought out by Deere Tractors, and you don't get bought out by another company like that if you're not good. He has over 30 patents in GPS, and he says in my film as well, he says GPS doesn't support relativity, which points out its flaws. And everybody says, no, we use it all the time. Nope, that is mainstream science saying we use GPS because someone sat down and said this is the way it should work. It's not the way it does. And I know those people who are in mainstream says, no, Dave, you're wrong. I'm right on that. I'm not right. We're all right because we've all looked at that. And you haven't. You just keep repeating what they say in school. Spencer, Dr. Eberly Spencer. She's also in my film. She has a mathematics degree, PhD from MIT. And she has said over and over and has studied this over and over, that the postulate, this two postulates, special relativity, that light goes at this constant speed, she says, which it isn't, and it's that it's based on the Maxwell equations, which are right, which she says they are not. So she also debunks the data. She got the raw data from the atomic clocks experiment on the plane that shows that clocks slow down because they're going around the world because of general relativity. Nope, didn't happen. Or special relativity. Either one. The mainstream likes to say one can't live with the other. And she says, in fact, no, that the data was completely fudged. And she's quite qualified to say those kinds of things. And of course, we have Dr. Edward Dotty, who's an he's a retired, he's not an ex. He had his full career there at NASA, worked with laser imaging. And he says that, in fact, when you look at stars, the gravity does not bend the light from stars unless they're in coronas, which means it's not gravity that's bending it, it's the corona of the sun or anything in the atmosphere. So when we see it out in space and we say, oh, look at the light's bending because of gravity, no, it's not, because there's things in the space there making the light bend. It isn't gravity. And that person, is he qualified? NASA, worked for NASA for most of his life. Very qualified. Some have even been excelled. Some people have even been expelled or shunned. Stephen Crothers was trying to get his degree in cosmology, physics, the Big Bang, and he was literally kicked out of a university in Australia. Why? Because he was going against the Big Bang, and you can't do that. I mean, what kind of educational system do we have here in the United States? That's a fact. Dr. Halton Arp, I have a video. In fact, if you go to this video right here, I talk about his book called Seeing Red, talking about the redshift, and he was literally taken away from his telescope, his time, because he was looking into the sky, seeing real things with real quasars, with real galaxies, and the red shifts weren't matching up, and that would have really destroyed the Big Bang, and they didn't want that to happen. So instead of saying, whoa, we need to change our theory, no, we're going to boot you away from the telescope and shun you. Mr. Lucas, Dr. William Bill Lucas, was an up-and-coming, one of the greatest minds in physics. During his time, he was being groomed by the United States government in the late 70s, early 80s. He was literally he did a talk on how there were problems with relativity, and as he was walking off stage, the other student said, "You're toast." And he says, "Why? What I'm saying is true. That relativity has problems." He says, "It doesn't matter. You just don't do that." So the problem of this whole thing is that we're not educated. We try to get educated, we get booted out. We do have educated people, and that doesn't seem to matter. So I think this whole misconception about us not being trained really doesn't matter, really, because even if we are, it doesn't matter. And even if we try to be, you kick us out. So I think this is a misconception for sure. Number 2. We're on number 3. The misconception, dissonant misconception number 3. Dissidents don't understand the universe because it's very complicated. Well, I have a meme myself that I have made and I spread around all the time. And we dissidents point out complication and paradoxes are in the theories and models, not the universe. So it's not complicated. No amount of explaining, and number 2 bullet point here, no amount of explaining can make anyone understand an unintelligible model or theory. That's what's happening. And you're saying, well, then how do they understand? We dissidents don't. Well, mainstream science capitulate. What does that mean? They give in. The guy in Physics 101 says, of course I understand special relativity. It makes sense to me. Doesn't make sense to anybody. He just says it makes sense because he wants to get his position. He wants to go and be a particle physics and find unicorns and get lots of money and spend lots of billions of dollars on big colliders to get lots of money and get Nobel Prizes for things that don't exist. They only exist in everybody's mind who's working together with that. But the idea that dissidents don't understand the universe because it's complicated is just a big ruse. And it's also used by the mainstream for us to make us seem stupid, and they seem very smart, and they use that card to try to intimidate us by saying, well, you just don't understand it. It's very complicated, and you little minds, we have the big brains, and you little minds can't understand it. Misconception number 4. We get lots of scientists sending us work telling us that Einstein is wrong. I've heard this so many times from mainstream physicists or cosmologists. Oh yeah, we get, I must get a half a dozen every year. Well, my response is, that's quite a lot, actually. It never crossed your minds that maybe so many people say he is wrong because he's really wrong? And in fact, I didn't even say that really well. I've been saying it that way. Somebody who said it even better is Dr. Glenn Borkert. If you haven't seen this, go right above here, and you'll be able to see his video where I talk about this. Really great video. You should check it out. Glenn Borkert's blog and everything. And this is what Glenn said. And where people were saying, of course, this idea that the Big Bang or relativity is wrong is ludicrous. And I love this. I've already applied. You've seen this before. I'm going to read it again. Readers also know, he's talking about, this is Glenn Borkert talking to people like you, critical thinkers, on his blog, in this case on my YouTube channel. Readers also know there are over 9,000 dissidents opposed to various claims of relativity and its birthright, the Big Bang Theory. I know of no other discipline having such great opposition from so many angles. So it's not just a few crackpots. We're talking about thousands and thousands of people and scientists around the world, some with PhDs in physics. And I contend even more than that the average person who really likes science, or the average engineer who really likes science, doesn't buy all that cockamamie from relativity to the Higgs boson to all these funky particles that have all these. They read this stuff and say, wake me up when you got something real. I am very certain that 99.9% of the physicists and engineers out there don't buy all this theoretical stuff, because the number of people in theoretical physics is in the thousands out of 7 billion people on Earth, maybe 8 now. Misconception number 5, questions to dissidents. If Einstein is wrong, then who's right? I hear that a lot. And it took me many years, and I've said this before. I'm sorry, it's a repeat if you've been with my channel for coming up to 2 years now. Well, I apologize, but I'm going to say it for those people who are new to my channel. I've said this many times. This demonstrates clearly that those in mainstream science are more interested in fame than theory. They don't ask, oh, what's wrong with Einstein's theory? They go, oh, if Einstein's wrong, who's right? Is it you? Do you know about Einstein? How do you know about Einstein wrong? It's always about who knows, who's it, who's wrong, who's right. Why? Because that's their fixation. What they care about in mainstream is their reputations, about who's right, who's wrong. That's how they compete. Because if they were to ever turn on their critical mind, they would probably go and become a surfer on the beach somewhere and give it up, because they would be so disillusioned by what they would really find if they turned their critical brains on. Dissident misconception number 6. Dissidents ignore that mountain of data that supports current theory. I mean, that's one of the things that if you see another video right here, this is my criticism of Dr. I don't think it's Dr. He's Neil deGrasse Tyson. When he was asked in that video that you just see, if you want to click right up there, of if Einstein could be wrong, his answer was, ho, 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 laughing first. And then his second statement was, it's been proved millions of times. It's proved millions of times in particle accelerators all the time. Well, here's my challenge to you, my subscribers. If you're new to this, if you're sort of new to being science woke or being a critical thinker, here's my challenge. If you look at the proof of current theory, it quickly turns to nothing or is full of serious problems. If you really look at it, we repeat the story, the legend, verbally, we write it down, we take tests in it. Does it mean that it's correct? No. In fact, when you look at it, this is your task, like I said in the second one right there, right here. Look up the big theories like relativity and look for proof. Special relativity is a really good one. Just look up special relativity. I think there's one page out there that tries to do it. And then somebody during my live talk said, of course there's lots of... What are the critical thinkers says? Dave, there's lots of proof, of course. We got to go get... No, go look at it. And you look down and you find... And then you started to look at the person, he or she looked at it. And they go, wow, this isn't exactly what I thought. Yep. When you look for proof, even if you look for proof for the electron, if you really look at it, it's sort of vague. It looks more like lots of particles or a beam or a field, as if it's one. Just look at these things. Go back and look at anything fundamental. It'll scare you how little we really know. Here's another truth there. There is no such thing as proof. There are better and worse models. That is all. Relativity has not been proven. Nothing has been proven. No theory has been proven. All you have is a model, and if it works well, use it. All those, if you have a model that is all the equations we have for electrical engineering, and we invent new equations all the time to make the circuits and the chips and stuff, and we follow those rules, yeah. Is it a good model? Well, it may not be. Is it useful? Yeah. Is it proof that your stuff is the way it really works? No. It works well. My model may support more data than yours, but there is no such thing as proof. So this whole idea that there's a mountain of evidence that supports, yes. But the idea that to disprove or finding there's proof, there isn't. So when you go look at it, it gets to be really murky real fast, this whole idea. Misconception number 7. Dissidents can't agree on anything. Science is based on consensus, Dave. And I have one on that. Just go to that. I can't point to it because it's not on this channel. But I did a nice video. Go to John Chappell. Look up John Chappell and consensus and Hilster. Put those together on YouTube. You'll find it. I've got a bunch of views on that. And I did a talk on that. It says, well, first of all, here's my response. We do agree on what is wrong. In fact, we have a lot of agreement on that. And it's not just that we all came up with it. This has been independently come across. Special relativity, even general relativity and space-time, those things have been independently looked at and agreed upon that they are problematic at the very fundamental level. Not at tweaks, not at like one little problem. Karazani found the real mathematical problem and the physical problems. But no, there's just a ton of problems. Number 2, we do agree there must be new models. We don't agree that we do agree that there must be new models, not the same models. Most of us really say we're going to sort of throw it out. We'll keep Newton, but that's about it. And then number 3, we have been in a model revolution for 450 years. This is going to be on our website, sciencewoke.org. It's going to be launching May 1st. You're going to want to sign up. Go to sciencewoke.org. Put your name in there, and when we launch, we'll be sending out an invitation to everybody saying, "Hey, we're launched." In there, I wrote a very what I call a seminal article, in my opinion, about how we have been in model revolution for 450 years. That means since Newton. We still don't have a good physical model for gravity, light, magnetic fields, etc., etc. And that's why we can have more than one model. That means model revolution means multiple models can describe the same data, or in this case, the universe. This whole thing about consensus, do we have consensus on what human language is best? Do we have a consensus on which app is best? Do we have a consensus on which telephone is best? Do we have consensus of which way to make a car engine is best? Do we have a consensus of how to shoot a rocket up into space? How come we don't have consensus and we're perfectly happy to compete and use it and have people use one model and other people use another model, but we can't do that in the world because there's only one model in the world? No. I mean, we can model this universe in many different ways. Does it mean you're going to throw away atoms or no atoms? No. The things that we have sort of evidence for, that we've poked around in the universe, yeah, our models have to all describe that. I mean, geez, folks. Misconception number 8. If all science was wrong, we would know about it. The mainstream would know about it. Why would you guys know? This is one of the things that when I did my documentary film and I sent it to over 80 film festivals around the world, some of the things I got back was, well, How come you would know it? I thought, well, wait a minute. That's what a documentary film is supposed to do. Break something open that no one's seen before. And I thought, wow, this could even win an Oscar because this is breaking open something no one even knows. But the intellectuals, the people who think they're smart, who run film festivals, and they think they know everything. Oh, I'm on the latest on particle physics. Ho, ho, ho. The Higgs boson's real. You're crazy. Einstein's been proven a gajillion times. All those things that we are talking about, these misconceptions right here, all these misconceptions. Well, they didn't let me into the film festival because, ho, 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 how would you know it? They violated everything against documentarians and science itself. Frustrating. But you can see it, and it's a great film. Check it out. EinsteinWrong.com. Don't know why I'm talking about that a lot today. Of course, universities do not allow for dissent in their classrooms. So that's how we don't know about it. Every time a student pipes up and says, but why does mass increase? Is it catching more mass as it goes faster and it like bugs and all that stuff? No, Johnny. No, Sally. That's just the way the universe works. If you question it, you're going to go nowhere. You can't be a physicist because it is a known fact. Without dissent, another response I have here is, without dissent allowed, problems do not come to light, nor do they get fixed. And of course, the third point there is groupthink parroting, as we know from Dr. Alexander Unsker, talks about that all the time. So misconception number 9, our penultimate misconception on this list at least: nothing will ever come out of the CNPS or other dissident organizations. This comes directly from people like Margaret Wortham, who wrote the book Physics on the Fringe. I've told this story before. We went to see her at UCLA at one of the book fairs there, and she even had a Nobel Prize laureate, but he wasn't from physics. That's okay, but he was from something else. They had somebody who was the head of Caltech, and she was doing her book tour, and she was talking to us, and she said there, and she said on National Public Radio, she said, when asked, well, do you think one of these guys could be right? And she goes, though nothing will ever come out of these groups. And of course, the response is so easy that anybody can see this response, unless, of course, you're in the bubble and you believe that you are super brains and you're super smart and that you're right and that you couldn't be wrong. And that is right there. This is the answer. It's so easy. For thousands of years, scientific change has come from the outside. You don't have mainstream science doing that. Maybe someday, if we teach critical thinking in physics and cosmology like we do in other fields, which we do in other fields, like if you're in software, they encourage you to do new stuff all the time. Make a new language even. They encourage it, but not in physics and cosmology. So maybe someday we'll be like that. But nope. Go read on the history of paradigm shifts in science. You will find very quickly, like I found in the early 1990s when I met Karazani, I said, how did these paradigm shifts happen? They happen from people from the outside. So this idea that they will never come out from these is completely the opposite. The chances of that happening are like almost 100% happening that way. And finally, it's not the final one, but it's of my list of 10, it's the final one. Dissident misconception number 10. Some new Einstein will come along and show us the way. In my film, again, EinsteinWrong.com, I have a conversation with the only person from mainstream science who was willing to be part of the film. My mother asked him some questions, and one of the things he says, well, if everything's wrong, I could admit that maybe we're all wrong, we just don't see something right, and one person, some really bright student comes along, the new Einstein will come along and show us the way. Well, I think that isn't going to happen anymore. In fact, there are people arguing today that the only way science is being done is collaborative because it is a complicated universe. Yes, it's not complicated in the sense that it's got stuff that's so complicated we have to come complicated theories, but we have a lot of things we can poke and prod, and there's a lot of variables of how we actually try to go about finding this stuff that we need big groups of people to help us get to the bottom of how the universe works. And so like the big particle colliders, a new direction will most likely come through group effort and not one savior. Not be one savior. It's This is David D. Hilster talking about this. This is my opinion. That's my channel. But it is truly what I believe is correct. And that is, I think, even like my dad and I are working on a particle model, we've got myself and him, and we already have one or two other people who have contributed it already because they like it, and they've already made comments, and when you talk about the model, they give suggestions, and it has actually helped us with the model. So there you go. That's just one example. We get together every year at our conference, which is coming up during this recording. We're in 2019 right now. We have a conference at the University of Washington that's going to be from June 26th through the 29th, and we will all get together and we will talk about ether theories and lattice theories and structure theories, and also particle models, particle theories, so all of those people. And so that's the answer. The answer is going to come from collaboration. We are in a model revolution. All of these misconceptions about who we are, with that we don't understand it, that we just make up what we want and throw everything else away and make simple models. No. We spend lots of time. We are using our critical brains. We don't have any thing holding us back, no salaries, no peer pressure. We don't have 30 years of paper saying, well, black holes, the way we think of them, maybe not exist, but we can't find them like the way we think they are. But I'm not going to change and become a webmaster and make websites. That's all I've done, black holes, all my life, so I'm going to keep doing. So this, I hope, will help you. So when you get these misconceptions coming at us, we critical thinkers, that you can go back, come back and see this video, remind yourself of these 10 misconceptions, and you will be able to give yourself an answer, because certainly giving them the answer won't change. What these answers are for you guys out there, you guys who are the critical thinkers, who are the dissident sciences. And remember what I always say, stay critical, stay thinking. I am Dave D. Hilster. I am your science therapist, trying to get you or keep you science woke. Ciao for now.